Discussion regarding community promotion grant
Give them the
program.
money.
Were you here for that whole time, Michael?
No,
In case you had questions.
Just
I wanted
in
to make myself available.
Thank you.
oh no.
Oh.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Say this computer
Uh-oh,
does
here we
not
go.
like me
Karen's
today.
back at the computer.
Uh-oh.
I think we should hold this one over. We jump down and do 8.6. That's Kaufman. Why she's getting ready.
Can I ask Mayor? We have one other person.
This is short. So last year, the council asked staff to review the current community promotions grant program. And so before we did so, we did notify the current grantees, those are the ones that have grants for fiscal year 13-14, that when we sent them a letter saying that they would be funded for 13-14, we also in that same letter told them that this would be the last year that they should count on funding and that the city was going to be reviewing the program. So, a little bit about the community grant program. It was established more than 20 years ago as part of the city's redevelopment agency in order to promote the cultural and artistic aspects of the community and provide for a high-quality living and working environment in the city. It evolved over time to include social services in addition to art, cultural programs, and events. And total funding for the program right now is a little under $58,500. In the past, we have provided, the city's provided more than $100,000 toward this program. Can't really see this too well. I guess I can try to make it bigger.
Was that all redevelopment money, Karen?
All but about one of the grants, which is the Friends of the Golden Gate Library, which right now is $2,500. That one was always general fund because some of the events were at the Golden Gate Library, which is outside of the city, though they did have some events inside the city as well. And so that was budgeted in general fund. But all the rest of this money, and when it was a much larger pot of money, all came from redevelopment. Of course, for the past couple of years with the demise of redevelopment, it is now all general fund. There's also a few other conditions have changed. If you've noticed that in this light blue here, if you look at it, at that more than half the money, or over $34,000 of the money, really was money that was used to support the school district. And that really was done at a time when the school district was benefit, shall we say, and that this was a way of being able to maintain art and music in the schools. Of course, times have changed with local control funding, with the parcel tax. The school district isn't in that financial situation, and in talking with someone from the district about this, there was also the thought that really with today's Common Core standards and more emphasis placed on using every instructional minute aligned to standards, that having a grant program being where programs that are done in the school day are conducted, it would be better to have that under the school district's auspices. And any of these programs that they wish to continue, they do have the funding to continue.
Good.
And then another bit of programming are ones that are done mainly through our community services department, that either it's part of the events program, Friends of Golden Gate and Emeryville Tyco, for example. And I put a star next to Emeryville Tyco, bless you, and that Emeryville Tyco has a mailing address in Emeryville, but they no longer have a class presence, or, I mean, they have essentially moved to Oakland.
They have.
And so that's another chunk of money. So if we look at this, the events budget of community services could potentially be used to fund the performance-based programs. And of course, there's already money for our summer youth program, including some new staff that has been hired that provide art services directly to our youth. And then the brown bag program is also something that's provided through the senior center. So we are recommending that these are also, that these programs right now, to the extent they should be considered or similar service, that would be done through the community service budget, and they could determine whether that's done in-house with these vendors or with another vendor or not at all. And the last little bit of programming was for services through the Community Law Center. I did 2 stars there because they have stopped. They used to do regular workshops at the senior center on tenant rights, and they stopped doing that because of lack of participation. So the services they provide now are really the services they provide in general to the East Bay, which is if you're a low-income resident, you can get some help with housing and some sometimes some pro bono work for other costs. And the housing program does provide a similar service through the Unity Council. And so again, we think that these programs, or I should say these services, maybe not through these vendors, but in some shape or form, can be absorbed either by the district or the city as part of what we do, and not necessarily done by grants. So what we are asking is that we do now formally notify the grant recipients that what we warned them of is coming to pass, and that the program is on hiatus, and that during this period of hiatus, which would be next few months, that staff works with the Center of Community Life Programs Committee to develop what a program priority, parameter, and timeline should be. I know there's been some talk about the council that with the new center, for example, and even kind of pre-center as a building, but center as a concept, there is likely to be additional program needs, whether for recreation or community services or library or whatever. And this is a pot of money that can be used toward those purposes, and how best use it could be done through the programs committee. And so we are proposing to maintain the existing amount of general fund money that's been allocated in the budget as a placeholder that could be used for whatever comes out of the programs committee as warranting money for, as I said, ECCL is the concept, which in other words, the services might be provided, let's say, for example, through the Family Resource Center or through community services or whoever else before there's actually a building there.
It's time for a change on this, and I would fully support staff recommendations to start in a new direction, but it's a good idea to keep that money in there as a placeholder as we go through the budget. But it's a good idea, Karen.
Yeah, I just want to agree with that. I think this is the right time. I'm concerned about the message we're sending, in a sense that we'll no longer be supporting some of these art programs, for example, in the schools. And I was sorry to read recently that there is no music program currently at Annie Yates, which I wasn't really aware of until just this last week or so. So I just want to encourage the decision makers at the school district to include, you said that there's funding to pay for it, to include those kinds of arts enrichments. I think they're very important in our schools, and I don't think, even as we have a greater emphasis on Common Core and new standards, I just want to emphasize how important I think it is to have arts instruction in the schools. And if we're not supporting that, I don't want the message to be that we don't think it's important, I guess.
I'll say that at first I was a little bit concerned about withdrawing some of these funds, in particular the second graders work with Nancy Karp, and that performance always draws a lot of parents to school. The cafeteria is packed on that day to watch that performance. My understanding is that the district may look at carrying some of these programs forward. And then also we need to remind ourselves that Cindy has helped build up some arts programming and other things after school, and luckily we're getting a larger and larger percentage of children coming to the rec program after school. So they will still, I hope, be getting contact maybe with the co-op or certainly with CALA. I know CALA comes to the rec as well. Anything else on this?
I want to be a council member that weighs in on the need to fund social services with this money. because we don't have a lot of social service nonprofits in our town. So the brown bag, I mean, you're not, I don't hear you saying the brown bag program is going to go away or anything like that, but that and the provision of legal services is always very difficult for low-income people.
Well, Community Law Center will continue to offer the services that they do. They don't, I mean, the difference is that they did stop doing the workshops because of the lack of participation.
No turnout.
And so these are services that would be provided through the center regardless of this grant, that they could still continue to do. In terms of the services like the Mercy Brown Bag, that would be really up to the community services with input from the various committees that provide input on whether or not this particular program should continue to be a program of the senior center. I don't have a recommendation either way. I'm not the community services director or the Friends of the Senior Center to make that determination. But certainly the amount of money that is included for that program is well within the community services department to cover, as well as some of these other programs that provide enrichment to the youth, particularly over the summer. Yeah. In fact, I believe they'll be coming to you soon with the good news and the responsibility it pays them to continue to fund that good news because of the huge increase in participation in that program.
Okay, staff has clear direction on that? Yep. Okay.